Game number 2, though, picks and bans coming your way. CLG on the left-hand side. The Splyce has opted for the answer back, and they will go and have the second choice overall.
I think one big thing here, CLG could potentially let the Athena go through yet again. I don't think that the Athena was able to bring the sort of pressure that we have been seeing from her, and also that's probably just due to a little bit of a lack of follow-up. I think that Splyce had the right idea with the Scylla and the Xbalanque. I wasn't opposed to those 2 picks. It was just that last little bit of the puzzle still missing.
And you notice I didn't say anything during the draft, because I thought that, I realistically thought that we would see the Athena jungle, and then Ardio and Nike would be on the side lanes. And I think that winds up being a much more fruitful endeavor. Unfortunately, this time, well, Splyce wind up a little bit hungry. CLG banning out 2 of the characters in the jungle that Splyce are known to play. And Splyce, on the other hand, ban out the Giannis that Hurriwind's known to play. And the Guan Yu that everybody's known to play.
A second pick, though, could maybe favor Splyce a little bit here. I think that some teams tend to perform a little bit better when they had that second pick. Splyce, to me, feels like a team that is better at reading and adapting to what a team throws at them. And now that it's going to be CLG in that first pick position, they're going to be the ones taking away that Xbalanque from Cyclone.
Yeah, Snoopy playing the amusing cob last time around. I think Xbalanque will be just as amusing for them. Terra on the other side, though, it's Splyce. Again, I like this choice. I'm going to say this first and foremost. No Terra jungle, please and thank you. Discordia, the mid laner, hopefully, of choice for Splyce. We did see Kiki play solo Discordia. I need to qualify that statement. So it has been done in the North American Pro League. I think she's much better suited.
I prefer not to see it in solo either. But that's just me. You know, maybe it's just me. But I personally don't want to see Terra in solo or jungle.
Yeah.
I have to clarify that because it is Splyce. But
I'll let you there.
CLG, I think, going a little bit more the traditional route that we're accustomed to seeing, that Raijin, Sylvanas, Xbalanque, love these pairings all around the board right now for CLG. And the big thing here, pressure. I think that they have more than enough pressure between the Raijin and Sylvanas alone. All they need now is probably a little bit of a heavy peel warrior or even another guardian to throw into this composition just to make it so that all of the initiation isn't pinned onto the Sylvanas.
Yeah, I really wouldn't mind even seeing a warrior in the jungle, right? We've seen Homiefe mess around with characters like Vamana. Even the Hercules is known to be played through players like Anitzer and Homiefe, so different choices. Would love to see some control, like you mentioned. The Achilles, though, for Splyce. This god is highly contested, and yet still has had struggles finding wins here. Tucker, what's your take on Achilles?
I think the big thing about Achilles for me is that, yes, he brings a lot of damage to the table, but that's about it. He doesn't bring the peel. He doesn't bring a whole lot of frontlining or initiation. He's just there to do one job and one job alone. Execute, which is clean up crew, or be the one that's dealing all the damage from the front, even if you are dying in the process. If this is an Achilles jungle, which I'm feeling it might be for Cyno, then I'd imagine that this could pair really nicely with the Discordia. You've got that golden apple to cripple members from CLG, keep them in one spot specifically, which is perfect because Achilles wants them to stay in one area so he can get that fatal strike off to begin with.
Tough for Achilles, though, against Hell and the Sylvanas. Both characters will be able to bring players above that execute threshold. I think we could see Achilles support, though, but I really want to see an Odin, even though it's banned. So last choice will be the Hades. So I think we see a Terra support, Achilles in the jungle, and the Hades in the hands of Divios. Not the first time we've seen that. And Hades has made a showing in the solo lane in the Smite Minor League earlier this week on Cloud's team. Believe it or not, it wasn't Cloud playing the Hades, but he was able to capitalize off of the control it brings. Divios has done this in the past before. I think this is an exciting look, Taco, but I am worried about the amount of healing on CLG's side.
Shout out to Dante, by the way, for that Hades performance. It was a pretty strong one, too. He had a pretty crazy triple kill setup for Cloud there. But getting back to the SPL here, I'm not sure how to feel about Splyce's composition. I almost feel like this might have been just a little bit too far one more time. Like we saw in Game 1, I liked what they had in Game 1, had they just swapped the members around with those gods. But here, I think this could be a little bit too far off the wall, even for Splyce. I like what CLG has going for them. I think that CLG's got this.
For me, it's much less about Splyce. I like it. I will say I don't love it. I like the draft. I've got no problem with it. But I want to marry CLG's draft. I mean, you've got the Hell to get out of the execute threshold from Achilles. Sylvanas also going to do that. Hurriwind has been hot as hell. Give him the Raijin. Things are going to explode. For my money, I think this is the end of the set. Let's see if that's the case. Game number 2, CLGaming taking on Splyce.
Let's give Tom in this CLG draft some space, apparently. He wants to marry him. I mean, We'll let him handle that, I guess. But I agree. That CLG is looking pretty good, though. I mean, isn't it just about everything you could kind of want in that draft? Tons of sustain between the Sylvanas and the Hell, and great late game damage to the Shibalong.
I mean, if you like it, you got to put a ring on it. That's why they banned away the Odin. They like their draft so much that they're going to eliminate that option. They're not ready for that next step.
Not letting someone else put a ring on it. They're putting the ring on it.
They don't want to be contained with their Sylvanas Hell combination. They want to make sure they get all the sustain online.
Well, who do you all think is going to win this game? Are you with us and the Lovebirds thinking that this is going to be a CLG draft, or you think Splyce could be able to force this all the way to a game 3? They certainly have a chance to do it. They've got the Achilles there on their side. They've got the Hades pick, which I assume is a Divios special. We know he likes to play that. Yeah,
he's played it a lot in the season 1 and 2 days, and Hades, just for good measure, has a lot of unexpected burst damage. You apply the Blight, whether it's through this Silence/Fear combination, or whether it's going to be through the dash. That's going to do a lot of surprise burst damage. And if there's no purification beads for CLG, you got to know that Divios is bringing in the pain.
Divios certainly is ready. I think he was the one that jokingly said those Hades autos feel a little bit bigger, don't they? Like, you just always feel like you're able to be accurate with them. He joking with that one, of course, but he's just that's how confident and comfortable he is on this pick. And he feels like this is the one that can shut down this Hell in the solo lane. That's going to be a very important task for Divios to be able to out-clear and get a good start.
I like what Splyce did with the Terra from Aror. They blocked some of those duo minion waves to just deter CLG a little bit and slow them down from clearing that duo lane wave to allow Splyce more freedom to get their red and try to bounce back to their own tower.
Now, you're my solo lane guru. No Warrior's Blessing, no Mage's Blessing, just right into the Warlock staff rush here from Divios. You're just trying to get those stacks online as soon as possible.
This is a Season 0 special, honestly. This is what you're trying to do because Warrior's Blessing wasn't around back then. Now, mathematically, what you're trying to do and get out of it, you're obviously safer with the Warrior's Blessing. But if you're not anticipating getting ganked, you don't necessarily need the sustain if you can confirm your own blue buff and heal off of the wave every wave.
And he certainly does have pretty good healing, and Hell not the best at zoning him away as Hurriwind takes some poke. Best is walking up, landing the Strife. Cyno's here as well. One bounce is all that it'll take. First blood goes over to Splyce.
Hurriwind a little bit too far forward. No reason to trade at that point in a 1v2. Only level 1/2 right? You're not going to be able to get off much return fire. Granted, he does go for the Tier 2 Soul Reaver, does a lot of return fire damage, but in a world where you're left alone as a mid-mage, respect the opposition at that point.
Instead, he does get punished in that mid lane. Take a quick spill. Does Hurriwind, who's also elected to not go for a blessing. Looks like he's going with the early rush here. We've seen this go into Soul Reaver, less commonly into Book of Thoth, so both options here available for Hurriwind. But
look at Homie. He's like just stalking Cyno. He knew that Cyno was going to be able to do those back camps, but he didn't know how quickly.
And does grab Best with that special delivery. Strife is here, forces out the beads early on. The pressure from Best and Cyno in this mid lane has been pretty strong already, as Sprint has to come out from Aror on the side of Splyce as well.
And the way CLG started off this game, during even picks and bans, they forced Splyce to go a different jungler than what Cyno is normally accustomed to, which is the Erlang Shen.
That's right.
Banning it in not only game 2, but at the beginning of game number 1, even before secondary ban phase. And it's forcing out the Achilles now, even a more aggressive god than the Erlang Shen.
Perhaps the only Smite player that can get an Erlang Shen banned against them. Cyno's just that good on that god in particular, so I don't blame CLG for wanting to strip that one away from him. But now it's Cyno's turn to show he can get it done on something different. The RDO did not quite work. The Achilles, though, this is a great look. Still a warrior, still loves that early aggression, and can still stick to the back line pretty well.
Divios trying to get his own blue buff, will secure for himself, but I think he invested into the dash.
It seems
needs to get it off.
Death from Below does not seem to be available here for Divios. He does have the extra cooldown, so he's able to make it back towards the tower, staying cool, calm, and collected as always. Now he'll have a chance to back and does have a teleport, so he'll be right back to the lane.
And honestly, that extra magical power you get from the Tier 2 Warlock staff helped him clear that blue buff a little bit quicker. If he only had the Tier 1 version of it...
I think he's close.
Yeah, he's 30 magical power. If he only had the Tier 1 version of it with the Warrior's Blessing, he doesn't confirm his own blue buff there. That would have been stolen.
And that's great as Cyno comes in aggressive on a fineokay who does not have much mana to his name right now. He's going to get some good poke. Even land the stun. Not going to go for the Fatal Strike. Homie was right there to block. But Divios waited a little while in the base, so he didn't even get punished for that back timer. He was able to finish the Warlock staff and come in and start stacking it. That was great from him.
Very quick Warlock staff. Not even 4 minutes into this game. I'm not sure how many potions he started with in the laning phase, whether or not he spent that remaining 150 gold. But this is the point where the matchup goes heavily into Divios' favor.
Yeah, not even going to let fineokay walk back to the tier 1 tower. Now, got to be careful. Hurriwind is rotating into the jungle for those XP camps, but not going to come all the way over to try and cause any problems for Divios, who already has the early pressure pretty clearly on this Hades. He can be a lane bully in his own right. He and Divios seem like a perfect pair.
Talking about Snoopy, though, on the opposite side of the lane from Solo, the way he's transitioning from game number 1, ability-based Musenkop, to game number 2, more basic attack, Xbalanque, shows that he's not a one-trick pony. Yeah, he did definitely surprise, I would like to say, Splyce with his opening strategy, and that's why I believe it was CycloneSpin that took a very early tumble in that laning phase, not really anticipating all that Shibble or all that AMC damage over time with a Mage's Blessing. So something a little bit more that he's used to. CycloneSpin can just breathe easier.
I'm interested to see what Snoopy does, if that build is a build he just thinks is the best, or if that was just for the AMC. My theory is that that was an AMC-specific build, but we'll at least get a chance to see what Snoopy does now as they move a little bit further into their builds. Cyno, though, is here in the jungle, kind of dancing around a little bit with Homiefe. He turned his nose toward the red buff, and he is indeed going to make that rotation back now that he has the best with him. And the rotation coming in from Duo as well. This is going to be a full-on fight, totally.
Homiefe doesn't even have tier 3 boots available. He invested into the tier 1 katana. He's going to be able to secure his back camps while the rest of Splyce trying to make something happen. Snoopy's dash got caught, but Hurriwind gets caught off between tier 1 and tier 2.
And Cyno's not done yet. He does end up getting rooted. Goes to the fatal strike. Snoopy is going to fall. 2 kills now come out for Splyce. Earth and Fury from Aror, and that means Cyno can freely re-engage. Red buff certainly going to end up being their prize.
And this Achilles pick is just putting in the work already. 3 kills on the board for Splyce, and Cyno was a part of all 3 of them with 1 kill to his name, 2 assists. He's been everywhere.
Definitely looking better than the RDO did at the start of this game. It feels like Cyno has so much more pressure. He and Best have done a great job in the middle lane, forcing out Hurriwind in the jungle, being able to work together to get good poke onto Hurriwind yet again, and also able to force back Snoopy as well and find a kill there. They've done a great job getting started here in this game. Can they keep that going?
Trying to make something happen is Homiefe, realizing the Best was left alone. Not much health, not much mana. Jigz making the rotation in mid. If there's ever a time for CLG to make a play, it would be onto the Best. But the way he's positioned, it's not going to be very easy onto that tier 1 tower.
Divios, though, has been stripping away this blue buff. That's how we see fineokay in mana trouble, and he went with beads early on, perhaps to try and get away from that ultimate from Hades. He's not going to be able to teleport right back into lane. Divios should be able to continue to extend his lead over here in solo lane.
I'm curious what he's going to buy, because if he really wants to, he could still pick up the Warrior's Blessing later on, but he's trying to get the ultimate power spike with the Shoes of Focus, getting all that cooldown reduction to make more plays.
Sonic Boom doesn't land, but he does manage to get off the special delivery. That is going to force Cyno to use the beads. Tycho drums, not going to be enough. Cyno able to very calmly walk away from that gank in mid.
Very respectful that Cyno picks up the beads at level 1 as opposed to the blink. Really worried about all that burst damage that Homie and Hurry have combined, and using both ultimates without hesitation. Hurriwind trusts his jungler to hit that ability, whether or not it does connect, because if it does, now you're looking at a lot of follow-up damage and potentially a kill. And if you don't find the kill, Cyno would have to back, and that gives more farm potential for Homie.
Well, Splyce want to be here for the red buff invade once again. The script has flipped. So the words that I'm trying to put out of my mouth right now is Splyce are right here for the red buff. It is Jigz and Snoopy over in the duo lane, though. Homie not going to make the rotation over, neither is Hurriwind. This red buff invade should be able to go pretty well for Splyce, as Homie now makes his way into that as well. Snoopy and the rest of the squad are rotating in. It looks like they did drop down the Earth and Fury. Jigz is very low. Cyno deletes him very early on. Hurriwind is in a little bit of trouble as Cyno harasses him. Aror low too, but he should have a chance to back behind that buff. But Best comes in, finds a kill. So does Cyno with a double. 3 for 0. Splyce have turned this set around.
They didn't have the Mercury or Raijin ultimate after the failed gank attempt in mid and couldn't hold on to anything in that dual lane jungle. Cyno zoning Homie so far away while the rest of his teammates securing an 8-minute Gold Fury.
And they don't even have the luxury of falling back on at least in the head solo lane, because fineokay has been having a rough time trying to deal with Divios. So Splyce are ahead in mid jungle. They have the Gold Fury now. They didn't have to give up any kills. And now here Divios is collecting farm in mid lane too. My man's all over the place, just putting his mark all over this game.
5 levels ahead of the enemy support player. That's the greatest differential that you'll see out of the SPL in a long time, still making it work even against his opposition. 2 levels above fineokay because he just can't get any of his own blue buffs. Hades' burst damage on that third ability, Devour Souls, does so much when you have the next 2 blue minions still alive. fineokay is better off trying to contest that blue as quickly as possible and eliminate those 2 side ones to make that third ability from Divios less impactful.
And this is tough too because the CLG is CLG are so in on this sustained comp right now. They do have the Mercury and the Xbalanque, and those are late game damage dealers. The sustain gonna be better late game. Hurriwind certainly relevant in the mid game, but I mean, it just feels like CLG are so all in on late that Splyce have been able to get a ton of early pressure by picking the Achilles jungle, Divios, the lane bully on the Hades. They're not giving CLG a chance to breathe.
And it's also the Achilles combined with the Discordia passive.
That's true.
So much power between both passives, depending on who has the top player damage from Splyce's side of things.
Hey, this is my red buff, says TheBest, as he comes to strip it away from Hurriwind yet again. Man, a little bit of payback after what happened there in Game 1. Homie rotates over to help secure the blue buff for his solo lane hell. Much needed to try and get fineokay some farm, but that just frees up the map a little bit further for Cyno, who is on his way over to try and catch out Homie.
This is actually fineokay giving farm to Homiefe, not the other way around. Homie trying to escape the clutches from Achilles, just fast enough to avoid the fatal strike, but Divios thinking about going through behind the tier 1 and the tier 2. He is level 13 with a lot of power, but he's sitting on a lot of gold in hand, about 2,500. Needs to spend it if he wants to continue forcing some team fights.
Thunder Crash is good to get Hurriwind away in the mid lane. fineokay and Homie, not even the 2v1 are able to deter Divios, who's clearly very comfortable in the Hades pick. But totally, you're right there. Homie definitely needs the farm, but they don't even get that farm. He doesn't rotate over because fineokay has not been able to protect it as Pyromancer goes the way of Splyce as well. No one around from CLG to try and stop that.
This is how you stop a Mercury. You just apply the pressure into the mid lane. If you collapse on the mid laner, the jungler will follow shortly after, and that can go both ways. If your jungler follows, then mid gets kind of pressured out as well. So that's what Splyce took advantage of, with Hurriwind being a little too far forward from his tier 1 tower in a 1v2 situation without... He used the beads a little bit too late, is what I'm trying to say. After the Discordia or Strife, no potential survival.
And we use the word pressure a lot, and it's the right word, but to talk a little more specifically about what we mean, I'm talking about being able to clear the wave faster, being able to stand further up in the lane, being able to come aggressively into the enemy's jungle and strip away their farm. That's what I'm talking about this pressure, where you can't access your farm as freely as you normally can, where you can't move about the map as freely as you normally can. They're the ones with all the onus here in this match. They're the ones who get to decide where the fights are happening. That's that pressure that Splyce have, that CLG are trying to find a way to relieve, as Hurriwind has to blink away from his own speed buff, and Homie could be in a whole heap of trouble.
The Strife connects onto Homie. Unruly Magic doing a lot. Golden Apple of Discordia not connecting as Homie goes back between his tier 1 and tier 2. fineokay trying to make some damage onto Cyno that could easily still heal up. This is where health becomes a little bit of a problem with a lot of cooldown reduction. Shoes of Focus, Genji's Guard, working on the Breastplate of Valor. If you don't seal the deal, CLG can come back.
Earth and Fury comes out, and Homiefe is quickly deleted. Aror will be the one getting the kill credit on that. fineokay rooted underneath the tier 1 tower. Cyno happy to dive the tier 2. No fear at all in the Achilles. They head back to clean up the tier 1. Even Cyclone making the rotation to defend the tier 1 in mid. Splyce are giving up nothing on the map.
Looking very dicey and shaky out of CLG compared to game number 1.
What a turnaround.
I mean, this is what happens when you ban Erlang Shen and then you give away an Achilles. Like, yes, I respect that Cyno has a great Erlang Shen, but giving up an Achilles now. But it's not just that you're giving up an Achilles. It's that you're picking all these late game picks into an Achilles. Immediately after the Achilles pick, it was a Hell and Mercury after the secondary ban phase. They did not respect Cyno's potential with that pick.
And to me, it was, and you're right, the Cyno early game into the late game draft from CLG is bad, but this is nowhere near as bad if fineokay is at least a level down, right? If he's at least close to where Divios is, but getting the last pick, possibly Divios' best solo laner, he loves being able to just bully you out with this Hades pick that has been completely making fineokay irrelevant.
It's a battle of the meta and the mind games between Divios and fineokay. Last game, it was CLG with second pick. Chang'e was the answer to the Nike from Splyce. This time around, the tables turn. Divios decides to go with the Hades into the Hell. Makes a lot of sense.
And boy, howdy, do they turn totally. Now Gold Fury is being looked at by Splyce, and CLG correctly realized they can't afford to come fight into this. In fact, Homiefe is looking to see if there's any farm way in Splyce's jungle. Unfortunately for him, the answer is no. In fact, he'll only get to enjoy being down 9,400 gold and 8,800 experience as 3 members of Splyce group up in mid and the other 2 push duo.
Tier 1 tower destined to fall very quickly as Hurriwind uses the Thunder Crash away Jigz with a Golden Apple of Discordia. Cyno was thinking about diving that with a Fatal Strike, but gets away safely. Snoopy between a rock and a hard place, but this could be CLG's fight.
Earth and Furies now come out. Hurriwind finally gets a kill by taking down TheBest. Divios is here, does drop that Pillar of Agony, but nobody's stuck inside. Snoopy does end up falling either way, though, to Aror, as they do manage to make that 1-for-1, but Splyce go a little bit too aggressive, and for the first time, can't quite win the fight cleanly.
It was just a great ultimate from Homiefe. Hurriwind had the distance necessary to do anything, and this is where the sustain from CLG starts to go forward. Both Jigz and fineokay grouping up and trying to get a response to this Tier 1 mid tower.
That's what they're going to have to do. Splyce, up until this point, have had all the pressure. They've been the ones to decide where everything's happening on the map. They're the ones that have all the control, and CLG just been kind of giving it up to them. There's not much they can do. But finally, a push back behind that Tier 1, Tier 2 totally.
This is what the hi-rez really does. He forces so much repositioning and chaos and havoc. So does the Mercury. Mercury comes crashing through the back line and sets up an early kill. And then hi-rez comes in with a counter. Luckily, it's like a counter matchup, honestly, because hi-rez kind of clears and wins the laning phase because not only are you damaging the enemy wave, but you're also healing your own wave.
Yes.
Hell does the same thing, but a little bit later on, and then you're forcing the cleanse as well, and all of a sudden, you don't have the cleanse for the Terra root combination, and things are looking on the up and up for Splyce, trying to win game number 2 and extend the series to game 3.
Looks like we got everybody back after that brief pause. We'll keep the action going for you. Even the teleport coming out. Divios going to be right here in that middle lane to come help out with Splyce. They finally got a little bit of pushback. That kill credit does go over to Hurriwind with a little bit of help from Homie on the Mercury. And we've been saying that CLG have drafted extremely late game. That's not for nothing. If they can make it there, man, with the Hell Sustain, Sylvanas Wisps, with Homie's damage, Snoopy's damage, Hurricwind's damage and control, he kind of could do both very well, then they're certainly in a good spot.
Definitely the case, but 10,000 gold is the difference at 15 minutes
It's a lot.
Yikes, that is a big lead. I don't even know how CLG can get into the late game if Splyce don't intentionally throw at this point.
It would have to be a little bit more of what we just saw. That was a little bit too much aggression from Splyce. And what happened is they weren't able to cleanly all go in on the same target, I feel like, totally. Cyno decides that he can't aggress underneath the Tier 2 tower any further, comes back through the Tier 1. Only like one member goes into the jungle. That's where Homie and Hurriwind can work together to get the kill into Best. They are going to grab Pyromancer, and now they're going to look towards a 16-minute Fire Giant. It's only fineokay on this side of the map. I think this is theirs.
They have some vision, even between the Tier 1 and Tier 2 mid tower. Keep in mind, that ultimate from Divios is global. That skin reveals.
I just thought about it. That's a big guy play, right? To do the one with the global ult. I don't know.
You can also use your special emote to kind of throw the opposition away at times. Just a little bit of a sneaky tactic, but Divios trying to catch Homiefe slipping. Not going to be able to burn down that Tier 2 tower, but he's just looking for any farm he can on this map. He's going even into the Splyce's jungle in the back camps.
Well, it is not easy to try and defend against a Fire Giant, but certainly not when you're down 10,000 gold at the 16.5-minute mark as Tier 1 tower does come crumbling down. Cyno waiting for someone to push up too far as CycloneSpin grabs the Tier 2. And there's that emote you were talking about to make it look like you're ulting. Working for Divios a little bit.
Charging the ultimate, Homiefe, but there's no world where CLG fight outside of their Phoenix.
No, I mean, that would be...
It's just not happening.
It would be almost like throwing your lives away. And at this point, Splyce just going to grab not what little farm, but all the farm that's still up on the map, these Tier 2 towers, as well as any camps they can grab, extend this gold lead out even further, because even Divios is not level 20 yet. There's still a little bit more relevance to this experience lead, plenty of relevance to this gold lead. CLG in a rough spot.
Man, Season 5 meta is just constantly shifting and evolving.
I love it.
In the summertime. No more healer. I mean, like, there's healers, there's no healers. It doesn't really matter. Snoopy trying to disengage, but without his dash, he's going to take so much damage from Divios.
Best blows up Homie very quickly. Taiko drums used defensively, but a double kill for Cyno. CycloneSpin takes down Hurriwind. I think this might be over already. Splyce grabbed the Fiends on the left-hand side. There's only only fineokay still left standing, and yes, Splyce are indeed going to move into the Titan room. What a bounce back after just a great game 1 from CLG. Splyce are ready to take game 2.
This might be the fastest game in Season 5 Summer Split. 18 minutes in, Cyno takes out fineokay for the Dia side. Game 2 goes Splyce's way, 14-1.
Yeah, Splyce able to just get off to way too quick a start there, and there was never a chance for CLG to be able to push back on that pressure. It was just, it happened too quickly. Cyno played out of his mind. Divios, of course, had a great game for himself with the Hades and kept fineokay irrelevant the whole game. A great start from them.
If I'm CLG, I'm thinking about, okay, where do we go wrong? Is it our gameplay or is it our picks and bans? It's a little bit of both, because if you're going to pick those late game gods of Hell and also the Mercury, you can't do it into the Achilles. It doesn't matter if Cyno is that comfortable with Erlang Shen. Play against Erlang Shen, don't play against the Achilles.
Well, who was your MVP for that game? I feel like we were just talking about 2 good candidates for it. Cyno and Divios certainly sound like great votes to me. Best was right there doing plenty of damage as well. Totally, you got a front runner here.
It's got to be Cyno, honestly. The way he was just being a bully. I like the fact that Best was able to set up that first blood onto Hurriwind as well. I think all of Splyce definitely got to be patting themselves on the back after that victory.
Well, we have ourselves a game 3 on the line between these 2 top North American teams. Who is going to find their way to break into the top 3? We'll find out next. But Desk, go ahead and break it down.
Find out next time. He sounds like an anime announcer right there. I don't know what that's about. Tom and Taco here breaking down game number 2 as we head to a game 3. Now, I'll be honest, folks, I didn't expect to see the game 3, but for a different reason. Game number 1, we were very critical of Splyce's draft, and I will stick to my guns. I think there was good reason. Game number 2, I was less critical about Splyce's draft and just liked what CLG brought to the table a little bit better. But this is the difference, or this is the fun of the game, is that what works on paper is all well and good, but how do you push your buttons?
I think you hit the nail on the head, though. It's just that it wasn't that I don't think Splyce can't make the weird work, because weird is their design. That is what they flourish in. But CLG's composition just felt really sound. I love the punishing factors, though, that Splyce introduced by just looking at Hurriwind. Hurriwind carries game number 1, looked outstanding on that Thoth, but Ryzen, a little bit less survivability there, and I think that Splyce knew for a fact that they could just take full advantage of that. They just rushed him down with pure damage and burst in the early game, and that ultimately resulted in Hurriwind falling so far behind and the rest of CLG not really being able to compensate for it.
Rough stuff. I mean, I agree. I think this was, I love to see teams actively employ, how did we lose in game 1? Let's break that for game 2. Hurriwind stood up and was the man, and then everybody stood on top of him to prevent him from doing so. Divios going to be your MVP for game number 2. You know, the commentators were talking about the jungler Cyno, and he put on great performance, but I think people just like to see Hades.
It's hard not to like to see Hades whenever he does pop off, because we get to see him so little. And you know it's going to be a niche pick almost every single time. What I really liked about this Hades choice, though, is that it prevented Jigz from doing anything with his team. Even the Hell Cleanses usually couldn't get them outside of that circle fast enough, and so they would just end up getting sucked right back in.
Well, because that was the thing, is that, I mean, traditionally speaking, you're like, man, I want to hit my Hades ult and hit him for all the damage in the world, but similar to some of the other choices that Splyce has gone, you don't need the full ultimate. That 1 second, that split second of slowdown is enough for the Achilles to catch up to you and hit you with the execute. It's enough for the Hunter to come through and let CycloneSpin do Cyclone, right? Like, that was what everybody needed, just a little bit of control. Divios on top. Game 3.